is. This is Citigroup's Wilhelm Buter. He says, as a blend of national and supranational, the EU resembles the Holy Roman Empire, which united Central Europe from the 10th century until Luther. Technically, he says about till 1806. So the president this Citigroup individual here is pointing out that what they see, this is a secular man from the world involved in the politics and finance of Europe, they see Europe as being a successor to that Holy Roman Empire. And the president of the EU certainly sees the European Union as an empire created by nations freely giving up their sovereignty. This is Manuel Barroso.
Sometimes I like to compare the European Union as a creation to the organization of empires. The empires. And because we have the dimension of empires. But there is a great difference. The empires were usually made through force, with a center that was imposing a diktat, a will on the others. And now we have what some authors call the first non-imperial empire. We have, by dimension, 27 countries that freely decided to work together to pool their sovereignties, if you want to use that concept of sovereignty, and work together to add value. I believe it's a great construction, and we should be proud of it. At least we in the Commission are proud.
So that's the way the European Union sees itself. It sees itself as an empire that is being created by nation states freely giving up their sovereignty. Was it exactly what the Bible describes in Revelation chapter 17? Well, that was 2007. The words of Revelation 17, verses 12 and 13, make it very clear that the 10 horns which thou sawest are these 10 kings, or 10 kingdoms, which receive no kingdom as yet. They're not powerful by themselves, but if they pull that sovereignty, they receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And they have one mind, and then they give that power and strength to the beast. Well, this very thing is what the president of the EU was saying just this past month.
Today, even the largest, proudest European nation cannot hope to shape globalization or even retain marginal relevance by itself. It is only together that we have the weight to influence the big picture. I believe that our future is an ever closer union of the peoples of Europe, acting as sovereign nations to freely pool their effort and power where they can deliver results that are in their own self-interest. My experience is that those countries which use European leverage to protect their interests globally matter more.
So just pick up on what he said there. By themselves, even the strongest, most powerful, proudest nation in Europe really can't do much. The only way they can do anything is by pulling everything together. That's exactly what the book of Revelation says. He's actually speaking about Britain and Britain's desire to leave. Well, brothers and sisters, we have symbols in the Bible. We have the picture of Daniel chapter 2, the head of gold, the Babylonian image. We have that of the woman riding the beast. And if we find the details of the book of Revelation a little too complicated for us, the angels have been busy at work to make sure that we don't miss the big picture. A woman riding a beast, a name of Babylon on her forehead, is what the Bible describes. And over the past several years, these are the types of things we've seen. 1984, a postage stamp was printed depicting Europe, using the ancient mythological symbol of Zeus, who transforms himself into a bull and kidnaps Europa and rides off with her. A woman riding a beast. And Europe has chosen that symbol to represent itself. The same thing was seen in 1991, when Time depicted the New Europe. Remember, Adolf Hitler wanted a New Europe, Das New Europa. Well, here there's a New Europe, but this time it's a woman riding the beast. And we've seen this as well with the use of Babylon. Babylon was on her forehead, remember. Well, the Renaissance painting that we see depicting the Tower of Babel, the beginning of the kingdom of Babylon, in 1992, Bible students were thrilled to see Europe identify itself with Babylon. I think it was Brother Steve Palmer that first brought this poster over when we saw it many years ago. And the EU published this poster using the Tower of Babel to symbolize itself. The caption reads, "Europe, many tongues, one voice," trying to undo the curse of Genesis. And it's like man standing there prodding Almighty God. When they released the Titanic into the waters, it was told that it was unsinkable. Think again. So this is the way that they are going to operate. Remember, Revelation tells us they will have one mind. Well, if that wasn't enough, Europe just went a little bit further and in 1999 decided that they would build their parliament building to echo the same thing. They identified themselves with Babylon. If we're struggling with the imagery of the book of Revelation, it should be plainly clear to us that God is connecting the dots for us to help us to understand. And of course, 2002, they mint another coin, again depicting the woman riding the beast, right on their monetary euro. So when we look at this great construction that Barossa talked about, it's really Europe that's built on three pillars. And this is taken from a European slide that we've sort of reproduced. The first of the great pillars was that of the economy. Economic union, monetary union, talks about citizenship, immigration policy, which is a big issue today. All those things are part of that policy. The second pillar is that of security, which deals with foreign policy and security, peacekeeping, human rights, democracy, defense, and all those types of things that are laid out there. And the third is the pillar of justice, which is about home affairs, domestic affairs, the police, criminal law. And on that construction sits the European Union. Remember, brothers and sisters, the words of Revelation 17. They're going to give their strength, which is everything to do with, or their power and their authority and their strength. It lists the whole group here. It's their military, their monetary, and the justice. The power of judicial was in the description that was given, and domestic affairs. All the things that they tell you this is what Europe's about are right in just simply the Strong's definitions of what we read of in Revelation chapter 17. Well, that's Europe, brothers and sisters, and it's interesting as we consider that map, the Warsaw Pact versus the NATO alliance. As the whole Warsaw Pact collapsed, it made room for the creating of the European Union with its own security policy. So it becomes now the central body in Europe, which in a sense makes the whole issue of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, somewhat irrelevant. And so we will see it slowly diminish or certainly realign itself as it becomes more of a Western entity. And as far as Britain goes, the Bible also talks about the fact that it has to be removed from Europe as well. So we'd like to take just a couple of minutes and consider that. There is a requirement in the Bible that Britain has to leave the European Union. It cannot be involved in Europe as we see it today. And that's perhaps one of the things in the last month or so has really boiled to the surface. Again, it was Brother Graham Pierce back in 1989 in the book Milestones, the one that comes out every year, who had the following to say. The position of Britain, which is the biblical Tarshish, is to be contrasted with that of Europe presented in Daniel 7 and Revelation. The fourth beast is to be slain and given to the burning flame. Or in a similar terms in Revelation 19, the beast and its 10 horns are cast into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. It should be obvious that Britain, biblically, has no place in Europe when Christ comes out, or when Christ returns. Because Britain is involved in bringing the merchants of Tarshish, bringing thy sons from afar. They bow down. We read in Psalm 72, they're going to bring gifts and present them at the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ. The one system is destroyed, the other system goes into the kingdom age. He goes on to say, there is a question of continuing interest to Bible students, or students of Bible prophecy, who are watching current events. There is a fundamental difference of outlook between Britain and the continental nation, and the impact on this, on events, will gradually separate the two. The detail of how an unbridgeable gulf will develop, we don't know. But he goes on to say, we expect that as Britain becomes estranged from Europe, she will restore her old strong trading links with these countries, Sheba, Dedan, the Commonwealth nations. He goes on to say, Britain has been under God's control for his purpose, a purpose to be revealed in the near future. Britain has no abiding place in Europe. She will be separated. Well, that's what our brethren wrote many years ago, before the Gulf War broke out. This is 1989 that he wrote these things. And I can remember, brothers and sisters, perhaps one of the most exciting Bible lectures I ever attended was in 1990, when the Gulf War broke out. The world was totally excited about what was going on. There'd been a malaise sort of in world events for many years. Our little ecclesia in Prince George scrapped all our plans, as you can do when you're a little meeting. We don't need the bureaucracy, just wipe it all away, and we had a series of special lectures. And the public was also very excited. We don't think had a visitor in about a decade. When I showed up for this lecture, because I happened to be the brother who was assigned to be the doorkeeper, we had 117 visitors. The ecclesia was 24, outnumbered about 5 to 1. And 117 visitors showed up. And there was 25 people at the door before we even started. So I'm thinking, they double-booked the hall. We haven't had a visitor in a decade. But people in the world wanted to know. And it was, brothers and sisters, for that special lecture, that our brother Paul published a little booklet in 1990 to go along with it. And this is what he said back then. Britain is identified in prophecies that concern those who protest and oppose the aggressive northern power who come to invade Israel. She cannot protest and oppose herself. She is therefore, perforce, not part of the European system when these prophecies are finally fulfilled. For this reason, writers over many years, some over a century ago, have seen Britain as being separated from Europe. So that's the situation. And he went on to write that the timing we do not know, but the author of this booklet believes that Bible prophecy requires Britain's ultimate separation from Catholic Europe. On that basis, he has no hesitation in saying that Britain's eventual exit from Europe is a certainty. As to questions concerning how it will happen and when, we do not know because it has not been revealed in the Scriptures. But when it does happen, it will be yet another sign verifying the remarkable dependability of those prophecies revealed in the Bible. And brothers and sisters, that's what we have been watching over the last few years. Headline after headline in the British presses. Get Britain out of Europe. Get Britain out of the EU. This is what has been going on in the news over the past several years. Brethren, years ago, looked at these things and said, well, if this is what the Bible states, then this is the way it's got to happen. Because if Daniel says it, if Ezekiel says it, then it's going to be that way, regardless of what it looks like right now. And we've got to remember that principle, brothers and sisters. We don't interpret Bible prophecy by the signs of the times. We interpret the signs of times by Bible prophecy. You've got to put the things in their right order. So this whole message of getting Britain out of Europe is one that's come up in just the last month or so, right to the headlines once again. We've been seeing it in this news. In fact, in the news this very week, the beginning of this fulfillment of what our brethren anticipated, because it's written in the Scriptures. A controversy, you see, has broken out in Europe over the past month regarding a couple of things. One of which is payments of huge sums of money, and the second is EU's immigration policy. Listen to Britain's Prime Minister, David Cameron.
But that leads me on to, frankly, the downright anger about something that has come about at this European Council. And that is the completely unjustified and sudden production of a bill for Britain of £1.7 billion to over €2 billion that is apparently supposed to be paid by the 1st of December. This is completely unacceptable. But it has never been the case that a €2 billion bill has suddenly been presented. And it is not acceptable. It is an appalling way to behave. I'm not paying that bill on the 1st of December. If people think I are, they got another